Zimbabwean, welcome to this week's edition of Transformation Markers. I'm Yvonne and I do hope I find you well. On this program this week, we want to explore a number of issues that are affecting the nation. The first being, what exactly is our problem? I've realized that people have been asking, the MDC is always talking, but what are they crying about? So we've invited the MDC party spokesperson, Honorable Councillor Jacob Mafume, on the program so that he helps us to understand the state of the nation. Honorable Mafume, welcome to Transformation Markers.
Thank you so much, Yvonne.
Wonderful. We want to know, the people of Zimbabwe have been complaining and they've been saying the MDC talks too much. What is the problem?
Well, we don't talk too much. We are simply articulating what the viewers or the people in the country are telling us, what the voters have told us in the last election, the 2018. The problem we have in this country is we have a legitimacy in the government's problem. We have a legitimacy crisis in the sense that there was a coup in November 2017, and after the coup there was supposed to be a transitional period which would lead to a legitimate election. The election was then held and it was far from being legitimate. The election was stolen and it produced an illegitimate president. The president that came out from that election is not a legitimate president.
Why? When you say he's not a legitimate president, what exactly are you saying?
Well, the issue was we were supposed to break with the past. We were supposed to break with Mugabe politics. We were supposed to have a free and fair election. Firstly, we were supposed to have an election where the process should be known, but the result should not be known. But we had an electoral system that worked with the result in mind and worked backwards, and they distorted the whole election. Firstly, the ZEC was not independent. It did not conduct itself in a manner that would allow it to hold an independent election. We had that problem with ZEC. Then we had a problem with the state apparatus. The bureaucracy worked and served Mnangagwa. He got state resources. The security sector was behind him. They were giving out maize in the middle of winter seed. They were giving out fertilizer in the middle of the off-season of agriculture. They were buying things. Foreign currencies, ZANU-PF was getting the priority. ZANU-PF right now is richer than the state. It was getting money directly from the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe became the Reserve Bank of ZANU-PF. They were awash with money. They bought cars for their parliamentarians. They bought cars for the chiefs. They bought buses for ZANU-PF. They bought all sorts of things for ZANU-PF, and then distorted the whole economy. So therefore the election was then condemned by bodies, independent bodies. The IRI report, the EU Independent Observer Mission, condemned the election and called it a result which could not be verified.
But the MDC said earlier on that if there are no reforms, the party, rather they said, if there are no reforms, there is not going to be an election in Zimbabwe.
Yes, and there was no election in Zimbabwe. There was something that ZANU-PF is trying to sell as an election. It was not an election.
But you participated.
Yes, we did participate in it. And sometimes you have to participate in a process to prove your point. Sometimes when everybody was saying that Mnangagwa had turned a new leaf, ZANU-PF was going to do the right thing. They were not going to steal an election in broad light daylight. And we realized that if we had not participated, no one would know the thieves as they are. No one would know the malpractices that they were going to commit. They were going to say we got in unopposed and we therefore are legitimate. But when we participated, and President Nelson Chamisa, Advocate Nelson Chamisa, showed them that even if he had 6 months to campaign, he was able to beat the best that ZANU-PF could offer. He was able to beat everything that was placed before him within the shortest period of campaigning. And he did beat ZANU-PF. They had to manipulate the result. They had to squeeze ZEC into announcing a result that was not the result that was there. So at the end of the process, what we said that without reforms, there will be no election in Zimbabwe is what happened. There was no election in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
There was a crowning on the top of Mnangagwa, which is fast turning out to be a crown of thorns.
And the MDC says they had a subpoena that they wanted to present to the Constitutional Court but was denied. And this subpoena shows the actual result.
Yes, the Constitutional Court did not allow us to get the result. The other side, the subpoena, was declined. The subpoena was presented before the Supreme Court. It was given by our lawyers to the Supreme Court, and it was never issued. It was declined to be issued. And those results would have come out. Secondly, recently in the case where Senator Komichi is being arraigned before the courts for obstructing the courts, he requested for the V11s, and the state said they've already destroyed them. They said they are no longer there. They've already been destroyed. So, at the end of the day, there was no desire to hold an election that would be up to the standards of a democratic election. The idea was to suppress the election, to suppress the voters.
And they say that all electoral material has to be destroyed within 14 days of announcing the results. And this is what is happening, and this is what has caused the anomaly at the Magistrates Court in the case that you've mentioned of Honorable Komichi. But the question now is, given that the electoral material has been destroyed, and we have a situation where the president who is sitting right now does not have figures that support his presidency, how has that affected progress within the NDC and within the nation of Zimbabwe? Like, people really want to know by what margin has Mnangagwa claim over the presidency? By what percentage did he actually win this election? Because results were changing with every hour that was passing.
Yeah, well, what has happened with that illegitimate result has brought in the governance crisis, which has brought in the economic meltdown. Now there's lack of confidence from the international community, lack of confidence from the local community in how Mnangagwa wants to run this country. Firstly, because of the lack of legitimacy, the regime began by killing people. 7 people were shot and clawed blood in the street. That is what happens if you have an illegitimate election. You have to then use force. Currently, we have tankers of police every day at Africa Unit Square, in town. Every day there's a tanker and squadrons of police waiting to run after people, shoot people, throw water on people. That is because of the legitimacy crisis, because the president is not illegitimate. The president has not been accepted by the local community, has not been accepted by the international community. He has to use force. So currently, we have a number of legislators that belong to the MDC that are in the courts. Just like in the old days when Mugabe used to run, where being in opposition meant you have to be brought to courts every now and again. We've got Senator Komichi in courts. We've got Senator Timbios in the courts. We've got Tendai Biti in the courts. We've got Abson Chidziwa Vondo in the courts. We have Staman Chamisa in the courts, the MP in Bari. All these people who are in the courts are MDC members. They are honorable members of the MDC. And every day we find that more and more of them are being arrested for obstruction of elections.
And we saw ZBC online yesterday posting that the party, the MDC, is plotting for an insurgency against the government. What's your comment on that?
That is another trick from Mugabe's seppuku. We now have the regime, or the illegitimate regime of Mnangagwa, saying that President Chamisa, because he wants to exercise his right to speak at rallies, and at those rallies people are requesting, not President Chamisa, people are requesting that they want to demonstrate against the conditions that they are living in. They want to demonstrate against high prices. They want to demonstrate against the shortages of fuel. They want to demonstrate against the shortages of cooking oil, the lack of jobs, and so forth and so forth. And that is enshrined in the Constitution using Section 59. We now heard the ZVC saying that we want to plot insurgents, or the president wants to plot insurgents, or the MDC wants to plot insurgents. We have the Minister of Home Affairs, Matutu, coming out guns blazing, threatening to arrest everyone and their chickens because they want to demonstrate. Now, this is what Mugabe used to do. This is what Mnangagwa is doing. They are keeping the opposition running from one courtroom to the other to defend themselves for simply being opposition members. And we are seeing that every day. And we are advising we are, as the MDC, issuing a political advisory note to our members that they must be careful what they eat, they must be careful where they move, they must be careful what they say, because the system has not changed. The system wants to eliminate MDC MPs, they want to eliminate MDC leaders so that they can protect their wafer thin two-thirds majority. They want to increase it by putting our leaders in jail. So the leopard has not changed its spot. The leopard is hungry for blood again. I think it's another month that has gone by, and since they killed a few people before, they are looking to kill a few more people. So we are advising our members to be very, very careful, because the regime is hurting.
I know you have talked about the Commission of Inquiry in other spaces, but I just want to come back to the incident of 1 August and the general overview, the general comment that people have in the community, where they are saying this is a way of stifling dissent, like how they brought out those armored trucks, the guns, they shot and killed people, so that in future, people are warned not to do something of this nature. And here's the MDC planning for mass demonstrations in light of the crisis of legitimacy that you've been alluding to. What is, do you think it's wise to go that route? Or is it a way of trying to stop the people from exercising their democratic right?
Well, it is clear that we have a right to demonstrate. We are going to exercise that right. We have a right to demonstrate, and if the membership wants to demonstrate, it is enshrined in the Constitution. We have held demonstrations before, Yvonne, as you know. Our demonstrations were big and peaceful. Our demonstration proved the point. And we are going to hold similar demonstrations that are big, that are peaceful, that prove the point. And this idea that the government wants to criminalize and threaten people out of demonstration is not on. It is a dictatorship, and we need to show that as good people we are not going to be silenced by evil. We are going to keep at it. Our president will continue with his consultations. The consultations are being done in terms of the law, and if people come up to the position that we need to be demonstrating, we will do so peacefully. You cannot criminalize demonstration and calling it insurgents. We know that they've used this insurgency trick to torture and maim people. This is what was used against Stole. This was what was used against Joshua Nkomo. This was what was used against our leader, Morgan Richard Changirai. And they want to use it against Nelson Chamisa. They first label you an insurgent and a terrorist, and then they go arresting you. And as for the commission, a lot of people who have been speaking for the commission are being targeted. We know there is a demonstrator who is being arrested in Bulawayo and brought before the courts, yet his testimony was before the commission. We know one of the activists, Haruzivishe, was beaten a few days ago by unknown assailants after he gave his evidence in the commission. So this commission is not protecting people. It is coming to get people to talk about what happened on 1st of August and then allowing them to be abused after the 1st of August.
Is the commission necessary?
Well, the commission was not necessary. We know who perpetrated the crimes. We have said this before. The commission is not necessary. It is fast becoming a killing laundering commission. It is there to protect the image of this government. It has not done anything that shows that it is of any use except using taxpayers' money.
Okay, Honorable Mafume, in short, what is the crisis?
Well, we have a crisis of legitimacy and a crisis of governance. We have a crisis of a stolen election, a stolen political process, which is manifesting itself as a crisis of governance. And as a crisis of governance, it's manifesting itself in very painful ways. It is manifesting itself in one, political repression. We have shootings, we have arrests, we have trumped up charges, we have insult crimes, we have the banning of demonstrations, we have the capture of the judiciary and other state institutions politically. We have a political stalemate and a political paralysis. We cannot move. Reforms are not happening. The media is still closed up. ZBC is still old ZBC. We have radio stations masquerading as independent radio stations, but yet they are from one mother. They are all owned and controlled by the state. So we have that as a political crisis. And then then it manifests itself as a lack of legitimacy on the international arena. And the president has to travel from one country to the other, trying to convince them that is legitimate. He can do so on the phone, and even when he goes there, there is no legitimacy. Then it is manifesting itself as an economic crisis. The economy has gone bad. We have hyperinflation back again. We have multiple currencies. We have a local currency that is not worth. Shops are empty. Shops are closing early so that people don't buy things in the shop fast enough. Service stations are closing early so that people don't buy things in the service stations fast enough. The goods are not there. Foreign currency is not there. There is no money. Jobs are not there. Everything is becoming a shortage. Gas for cooking is not there. Money for the farmers is not there. The seed maize has gone up in price. Fertilizer has gone up in price. Everything. The economy has become a crisis. Taxes are increasing. We have a clueless Minister of Finance who is increasing taxes willy-nilly. People are demanding to be paid in US dollars. Strikes are going to come, and so forth and so forth. So there is an economic meltdown. Corruption, it's endemic. Self-admitted corruption. Everything is being done corruptly. The state cannot buy fuel without a corrupt baron. The state cannot buy maize without a corrupt baron. The state cannot buy electricity without a corrupt baron. Everything that the state has to do, it has to do through one of these corrupt barons.
Okay, so Honorable Mafume, you've made it very clear the challenges that Zimbabwe currently has. Now we want to know, what is the NDC solution to that? Does an NDC have a solution?
Well, the solution is very clear. It is clear that President Nelson Chamisa won this election. And that's the starting point. A wrong result was announced. We need to deal with that issue for us to be able to move on. There are people who talk about 2023 and so forth. We cannot move on when we have an electoral process that consistently and persistently announces the wrong result. It will be a sheer waste of time for us to purport to be moving forward should we not be able to announce the correct results. And the beans are spilling out. The likes of Mchango, the likes of other people are beginning to talk about this result not having been a legitimate result. This result being a cooked result, the election being an election which was stolen. The IRI report, the EU report, all doubt the credibility of this result. And there is no one who cannot continue with the fallacy that President Mnangagwa won this election. That is fast going away, and that is fast becoming a myth. The president, for the sake of progress, has then stated that there's a 5-point plan to solve this problem, which firstly to deal with that issue of legitimacy and creating dialogue around it. You create dialogue around that legitimacy. Then you create an interim solution that deals with deepening reforms, that deals with issues of looking at the political framework. Then you go to the economic stabilization. You deal with the economy to give relief to the population, to allow people to recover and breathe, to allow people to live. Then you deal with international engagement. You deal with international engagement. You get the international community to engage with us in a meaningful manner, not in a manner where people promise billions that do not come, not in a manner where people promise relief that does not come, and looks at a framework that will enable us to join platforms that are of value to Zimbabwe, to be able to create these things. And this 5-point plan has been elaborated by the president on many of his rallies, on his talk shows, and we'll have it for the viewers here as a 5-point plan due to time. But those are the solution. We have to give and return to legitimacy and acknowledge the victory that was won by our president. And then we move forward with a solution that brings everybody on board.
And lastly, Honorable Mafuma, there is a by-election in Mozino coming up on the 24th of November. Is the MDC going to win that election?
Sorry?
Lastly, Honorable Mafuma, there is a by-election in Mutoko North coming up on the 24th of November.
Yes, yes, we are participating in that. Our candidate is Boniface Mushore. He is going to be participating in the by-election. He did participate in the ended general election. We do believe that we have to participate in the election until our leadership or until the National Council gives a counter review. Why we need to participate in the election is to be able to illustrate the point that we are making, that the playing field needs to be attended to. Right now, as you can see, the resources that the state is giving to ZANU-PF, the publicity that the state media is giving to ZANU-PF is not balanced, the resources are not balanced, and so forth. So therefore, we are having to participate on a bare bones budget. But we believe that the will of the people that has carried us thus far, there are donations through our platforms, through the EcoCash platforms and other platforms that we have created. And they are the sheer will of the people who take us a long way in this electoral field, so that we are able to illustrate the point that the people are with us, but the system is against us.
And the president has another thank you rally coming up?
Yes, the president has another thank you rally coming up in Marondera on Saturday. We are all welcome. We are consulting the people of Marondera, the people of Marondera and the nation at large as to where we should go from now. We are telling them about the victory, how the victory was stolen, and how we intend to reclaim the victory. And therefore the process of reclaiming the victory involves consulting the people. We had an exciting time in Beitbridge, we had an exciting time in Gwanda, and we will have an exciting time in Marondera. The people of Mashonaland East, we ask you to join us in this celebration of our victory, and also in coming up with strategies on how we reclaim our victory.
All right, Honorable Mafume, thank you so much for joining us on our program, Transformation Markers. Thank you, Zimbabwe. You are watching Transformation Markers. with me, Yvonne. I do hope you've learned one or two things and that the questions that you've been asking have been answered. Join us again next week as we continue with more issues that are affecting Zimbabwe. Thank you so much and God bless you.